So Daryl, how do you feel this past weekend about A&M winning by a touchdown, in spite of the fact that Kellen Mond threw 2 interceptions and the touchdown they scored was on a fumble recovery?
I'm gonna hit you with a flag. I'm gonna hit you with intentional frowning.
Intentional frowning.
Yeah. That's my. That's my contribution to the show for this week. See you guys next week.
Intentional frowning. Well, now that Daryl has decided he's leaving, I guess I'm gonna do a solo show this week. But no,
cut to me like some noises of walking away.
Work.
Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Daryl. This is Spencer. This is the Gameday Breakfast Podcast. It is 10:23 when we're recording it. Not at night. Like the date is 10:23.
Yeah,
it's the 23rd of October. We got a big weekend coming up. There's going to be lots of stuff going on. I got a couple of big games. Spencer's psyched because he's finally going to get a real test for his Tigers this weekend.
What do you mean a real test? We're the most battle-tested team in the country.
No, man. Give me your most quality win of the season.
I mean, we have the most top 10 wins of the season because we played.
Yeah, but how many of those are still top 10?
It don't matter. They were top 10 at the time.
That's a whole topic for a show we need to talk about. It does. Because I would argue that it does not matter.
Top 10 at the time. Top 10 at the
time. I would rather beat a team that is number 19, right? Game 1, and then 5 weeks in they're number 8. I would much rather that than beat the team that's number 8 and then a couple weeks later they're number 19.
It's not up to me to decide what my opponents do. It shouldn't be up to me. If I'm still doing good and if I'm winning my games, why should I have to judge my season based off of what my opponents have done?
Because what your opponents do is that is how you judge a football team. And if your opponent has consistently been good and you beat them, that tells you that you beat a legitimately good football team. It basically means that the team is better based on a higher sample size.
I partially agree, but you're wrong. It shouldn't be up to my team. It shouldn't be up to my team's record to dictate and to have we shouldn't have to base our season. Like, if we're winning all of our games, which so far LSU has this season, why should we judge that based on the teams we've played?
And I see what you're saying. Like, you're taking care of business. You're playing the team that you play each week. But in my mind, it is a fact of, and to me, by the way, to answer the question, the hypothetical I answered earlier, it was Florida. Florida's the biggest win for sure, and that was that was definitely a quality win. That was their first real opponent, in my opinion. But I would argue that number 9 Texas is not that team is not truly number 9. But one thing you did, they were number 9 at the time, but I think a lot of that had to do with injuries because they were not injured as much as they are now. I think the Texas of that week was probably better than the Texas of this week. So it's really hard to say that there is. You're right in that there is some fluctuation with the numbers because the Texas team that played Kansas this weekend would have lost by a lot more to LSU than
for sure.
Week 2 Texas. So there is some flexibility. I think we're both right to a certain degree.
Yeah, I think both points are valid. I just think that
it's just not black and white. I mean, the way a team plays week 1 versus the way a team plays versus on week 7 is very different.
Yeah, the whole mid-season form conversation.
Exactly.
You're relaxed. Exactly. You're doing what you need to do. You're getting things done.
But I joke. But this will be a really good test for LSU. I think they have them at home, don't they?
Yeah. And history dictates that, if you follow history, the last time it's been over 20 years since Auburn won in Death Valley. So
really?
Mm-hmm. Last time they did it was September of 1999.
Wow. Well, that is a scary stat.
Yeah.
I hear things like that, and then in my mind I think, wow, that's not going to change. But there is also like the I can't say this word correctly. The statistician in me, the man who enjoys statistics. There's always that part of me that says, well, they have to regress towards the mean at some point, right? Like at some point,
yeah,
the luck has to run out, like it did for Florida against Kentucky a couple years ago, whenever they had, like, what was it, some ridiculous number, like 30 wins straight. Florida was beating Kentucky.
Yeah,
and then Kentucky swept them.
Yeah, same against Tennessee. Like eventually something's gonna happen.
Right.
So,
it's just when is it gonna snap?
Yeah, and this could very well be the week. Auburn's number 9, and I'm glad they moved into the top 10 because, knock on wood, if LSU happens to beat them, that'll be, another top 10 win for us, even though, we just discussed whether or not that top 10 at the time, to me, matters more than...
I think you've got to find an answer somewhere in between, because if a team is not ranked where they were, you have to admit that they're not as good as they clearly thought. Or they're not as good as everyone thought they were to be in that position, but they may very well be better than where they are in the count, or like where they are in the top 25 now.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like a lot of times the top 25, especially this early in this season, because we haven't got to the playoff rankings yet, which I have my feelings about those, but a lot of the AP rankings now, I feel like dictates, like especially early part of the season, it's dictated based off of what happened last season. And so, like, Clemson was number 1 simply because they went undefeated and won the national championship.
Right.
But they're certainly not number 1 now, I think they're number 4, which is fine because
well, and it goes back to that when you're in the top 4, the differences are so minute. Like 1 week, Clemson you could probably be fairly say or 3 or 4. LSU you could probably safely say is 1 or 2. Alabama you could safely say is 2 or 3. Like there's some wiggle room in there for sure.
Yeah, based on schedule, based on merit at the time. All biases aside, to me, LSU is the number 1 team in the country based on the work we've done, based on the quality of opponents we've played. Because the only real test Alabama's had was Texas A&M, and they handled them. So
we really just, we didn't pull any punches. We got right into the hard hitting, who was really good versus who was really bad versus strength of schedule versus, we got into it immediately, didn't we?
Yeah. And we've been talking for a while. That's a whole show unto itself, but
As an aside, we've had talks, just to let everybody else know, we've had talks about doing a sort of a podcast on the side where we just talk not necessarily about college football. Maybe we'll talk about one specific topic. And we're planning on doing that at some point as soon as time allows.
Yeah.
But hey, once football season's over, maybe we'll keep it going and do something else. Maybe we'll have a weekly show. Who knows? But just know we have ideas on the horizon.
Yeah, something like that.
Because we have lots of stuff to talk about that is not necessarily the week to week,
Yeah, and stuff that can carry into the off season, and and we've talked about doing a whole shorter form show, maybe 20 or 30 minutes, just us talking about something that is a worthy discussion, but maybe doesn't make it into a main show, something like that.
Right.
We've talked about that, so be on the lookout for that in the future for sure. But yeah,
I got to ask you, man. What when you think of a play that sort of sends your mind into a frenzy of this is a 1 in a million chance of what you just saw happened? What do you think? Do you think of that the Auburn game a couple years back, whenever Nick Marshall threw that pass, they were down with 3 seconds and it bounced off the guy, and then there was a guy wide open and they scored? What's your staple? I can't believe this goofy shenanigan just happened play.
Oh, the kick six, Auburn, Alabama, the 2013 Iron Bowl for sure.
Okay,
that's the best play in college football history, hands down. Period. Don't at me.
Well, and I'm not saying necessarily greatness is in it was incredible and that it like saved the day. I just mean like something goofy shenanigan happened like that. Like there was one play a long time ago where like a guy threw a ball back into bounds and somebody caught a pick, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that was I want to say that was Oklahoma State, Oklahoma.
It was like in 08, wasn't it?
No, that was like 2009. That was like 2010, 2011. Oklahoma's quarterback threw it, and then the Oklahoma State defender, he went to throw it out of bounds. The Oklahoma State defender jumped in the air and tipped it back to one of his other defenders. Yeah, there's like stuff like that. Or like the ending of, I think it was 4 years ago, 2015, Michigan State, when Michigan comes up to punt that ball, and the punter bobbles the snap, and Michigan State picks it up, and they score on the very last play of the game, when all Michigan had to do to win that game was get the punt off, like clean snap, get the kick off, and this game's done. But
well, the reason go ahead, finish. Go ahead.
And then that very same season, when Florida State was ranked like number 6, like number 5 or number 6, and they played against Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech blocked that field goal and ran it all the way back for a touchdown, when that field goal would have won Florida State the game. And at the time, their kicker had never missed a field goal in the fourth quarter. So it was crazy stuff like that happens all the time.
Yeah, and that's what's fun. It's those plays that make you think, like, if we replayed this play, 100 more times under the exact same circumstances, this is the only time that would have happened,
Indeed.
The reason I bring that up, and the reason I bring that up is because, and you probably saw this because it was sort of all over social media, but there was a play this weekend between Air Force and Miami where I believe it was the
Air Force and Hawaii. You mean?
Yeah, I was Miami. I saw the A's and the W. Yeah, Air Force and Hawaii. My apologies. I think they were in Hawaii. And
I believe so.
There was Air Force's Grant Thiel. He threw a pass. It bounced. I apologize. Grant Thiel was the Air Force defender. He was the guy. The quarterback drops back, throws a pass. It bounces off of Thiel's body, kind of everywhere. It was like off his butt, then his hip, then his foot, and the ball kind of got chunked up in the air. And then Milton Bug III ran it back 92 yards for a touchdown. One of the most bizarre interceptions I've ever seen.
Yeah, that play was nuts. I've seen it. I've watched that play several times, and it's absolutely insane. Like, I've never seen an interception quite like that. Like, there's been crazy interceptions before, obviously, but I've never seen one that did quite what that one did, and it was really cool.
Well, it gave me some ideas that if you're a coach, because, I feel like every coach sort of has, one weird thing that they do with their players, as far as like the one weird thing that they practice, and I think this is one of those weird things that if you really had just some extra time and you're with your defense, one good thing that you might consider doing if you're a coach is sort of have just like on a Friday, like on the last practice of the week or something, have drills where you essentially play like hot potato, keep it up with the ball. Yeah. Because if you're a defender and maybe you can't quite make the pick, right, but there's somebody near you, if you can just find some way to pop it up in the air and get that extra hang time and keep it from hitting the ground, that's a live ball.
Yeah.
And that's not something that I'm sure is practiced a lot because realistically there's so much else you need to prepare for in football. But can you imagine just a team that took the time to do that and defenders that were like, okay, I can't make this pick, but maybe I can pop it up.
Yeah.
Get the ball in the air because that's pick territory.
Yeah. That's definition of play to the whistle, right? Like just don't let the ball hit the ground if you're in that and play till you hear a whistle. And that's what Air Force did on that play. Also, Air Force's uniforms in that game were really good. They were based on the C-17 fighter jets, or C-17. I think C-17 is a fighter jet. I'm not sure. I'm not really up on a lot of military aviation, but
I'll tell you what too. That bug boy that ran it back, that was a tall white boy running that ball back, and that's not something you see a lot. He was gone. This kid was flying.
Yeah, and his legs are that dude's legs are incredible.
Oh, he's really, really tall. In fact, I kind of want to figure out how tall he is, and I'll look that up real quick.
Yeah, he runs like he had such a long stride, and it was like he looked like he was jogging, and everybody else was like full sprint right next to him. It was
Milton Bug III. That was his name. I'm gonna look him up and see how tall he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a one play that is. One of those ones you wish you could see live because then you'd be looking at everybody like, did you see that? He's only 5'9". Wow, he's actually not that big.
He's got long legs, though.
Yeah, he's sort of built like a kangaroo. He's got some grasshopper legs on him.
Yeah, oh for sure. But yeah, that play is great, and like
big time.
It's gonna go down in that like echelon of plays that like
that'll be in the highlight reel of all the stuff next year, all the promo material.
Yeah, and it's gonna go down in like there's just like that echelon of plays that you just see over and over and over again, like that Nick Marshall pass against Georgia, and then like 2 weeks later the kick six. And then,
the Nick Marshall pass to himself after it bounced off off his own guy or whatever.
Stuff you just see over and over again that's going to continue to create highlights.
Right. Ends up on all those YouTube compilations of crazy college football plays,
Yeah. So
they're like 1,000 IQ plays.
Yeah. But yeah, that's those are great. I love watching those. So Gary, you got anything you want to talk about?
I was going to get into it when we get to it from the games from last week. I kind of want to cover some of the things we picked. Last week, we did pretty well. We both picked Oregon to win against Washington, which, by the way, that game was nuts. Mm-hmm. I did not expect that to be as close as it was, but Oregon came rushing back, and major props to them for playing 4 quarters of football. They're a big-time team, and I think that are they top 10 now? I think they're top 10 now.
Yeah.
No, they're 11. They're 11 now. But, I mean, this is a team that's very much in the playoff picture. If they keep winning,
I mean,
good things can happen.
Beating Washington, they definitely just almost basically solidified themselves winning the Pac-12 North if they keep winning. Because the Pac-12 is one of those conferences like, okay, who wants to win this conference? Who wants to win this thing? Because they still have to play Washington State and Oregon State. And Washington State is struggling, and Oregon State is not good at all. So if they beat those two teams, they'll go to the Pac-12 championship. But then they also have to play USC and the Arizona schools in between all that as well. So, and then Oregon, Arizona State's going to be a very good game in a few weeks.
I agree, and I think the best thing Oregon can do if they want a chance to make the playoff, you have that tough loss again, that tough week 1 loss against Auburn that they very well could have won. It was sort of a 50-50 game in my opinion. But yeah, the best thing they can do, number 1, is win out. But because it is so competitive in the top 4 right now, and there is a possibility of 2 teams of the same conference getting in, the best thing they want to do is win out and be very impressive in doing so.
Yeah,
they want to win They want to win by big margins if at all possible. But they just got to keep getting better. But it would be nice to see them make the playoff again.
Yeah, it would be great. They haven't made the playoff since the Pac-12 as a whole hasn't made the playoff since the first year of the playoff when Oregon lost to Ohio State in the national championship. And there's, unless you're like a fan of one of their rivals, there's like no way you can really hate Oregon. Like Oregon's just one of those teams you can always cheer for. Like they always have like the best uniforms, and like they've kind of calmed down with like their crazy uniforms, but the updated stuff they're doing this year, obviously we've talked a lot about, and it looks really, really good. But yeah, so, but we were both right about that one.
Yeah, that was nice. It was encouraging. This is the first week I've actually gone back and looked at sort of what we picked. It's sort of interesting to see how we did. We were both right about Clemson. That one was pretty black and white against Louisville. We were both right about Georgia, although Georgia did, again, make the game closer than most people would have.
Yeah, it was 0-0 at halftime. That game was
really
nuts.
Bizarre, right?
Yeah. So, quick story about that Clemson-Louisville game. I don't know if you saw any of the highlights, but did you see there was like a Clemson guy and a Louisville guy got in a fight, and the Clemson guy like punched the guy?
I did not. I didn't know about that.
There was like on a punt or like a kickoff or something, but they were like running down the field and they got tangled up with each other and they kept swinging at each other. Dabo Swinney made that Clemson guy ride the equipment manager bus the 450 miles back to Clemson.
Oh, I did hear about that. Yeah,
instead of taking the flight. Yeah. So, I mean, hey, you got to discipline your players somehow.
Well, yeah, for sure. And I mean, Dabo, say what you will about Clemson, but Dabo is a good coach and he's a good human as well. I mean, I've never heard him in an interview or anywhere say anything I didn't that I took any sort of issue with. And he just seems like a really cool guy. So I'm cool with Dabo. I think he handles things very well.
Yeah, obviously a great coach.
So Penn and Michigan. I picked Michigan. Obviously, that didn't turn out well for me. You picked Penn, so major props on that. That
Penn
was.
State.
We got my apologies.
Yeah, Penn State. There's a big difference between Penn and Penn State.
That's correct. Penn State. I was using my shorthand when I was writing this. So Alabama. Obviously, we both picked to beat Tennessee. Nothing fancy there.
Oh, that game was closer than a lot of people thought.
Right.
And if it wasn't for that. Yeah, if it wasn't for that long fumble recovery on that game would have looked a lot closer because Tennessee would have been within 8 points. So, and like I said, that was a rivalry game, and so even though I think the final score was 35-13 Alabama, that game could have been that game could have very well been like 35-20 or like 28-20. So Tennessee, they're not very good this year, but you know they're having good
problems.
Luck. Yeah.
So very nice. And then Utah, we both picked to beat Arizona State. So that was good. And then also we both failed. We both picked Mizzou to take down Vandy, but
that game was insane.
No such luck.
Vanderbilt pulled the upset.
But it was funny because we were just like, I think literally the title of our last podcast was like Sneaky Mizzou or Sneaky Good Mizzou. And they just, we were very high on them both last week talking about how they could go a long way. And, but I think it came down to Kelly Bryant. He just wasn't, he not himself in this game. 13 of 26, only 140 yards, just nothing special.
Yeah. All right, we're back. Sorry about that, folks. A little bit of a
sorry about that, guys.
A little bit of a technical difficulty. My microphone went a little wonky on me, but we are back, and we were talking about Vanderbilt's upset of Missouri.
I mean, this is a big win for Vanderbilt. I mean, you know, you could say what you want about, you know, Mizzou being disappointed. I mean, maybe the same thing happened in that locker room that happened on our podcast last week, and they were like, "Hey, you know what? We're pretty good. We're in a good spot," you know. And maybe they just sort of overlooked Vanderbilt. It's very easy to do that, especially whenever this is a Vanderbilt team that has nothing to lose and, you know, is craving a big win against a ranked opponent. So,
yeah, for sure.
You know, major props to the Commodores.
Yeah, Vanderbilt's done that, you know, several times in the past. They'll come up against an opponent that they should lose to, and they'll hang around. Oh, Vanderbilt won the game, and you know, stuff like that happens. So
and that, you know, historically they've always been respectable on defense, and so they've always been able to hang around like that. You know,
and you know, obviously great academic institution. Bunch of nerds playing football. I don't mean to call them nerds, but like Vanderbilt's very difficult to get into.
Out the gate, huh?
Yeah. They know what I mean. They're not upset with me if any of them are listening to this. They take that as a compliment.
Of course they do. They're what we call a 3.9 football team.
Yeah.
The entire team is 3.9 or higher.
Yeah, they're going to go on to be professionals and like they're going to be like rocket scientists and surgeons.
They're going to go the NFL. They're going to go the NFL, but as representatives.
Yeah, these are going to be
lawyers and doctors of the teams.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, can you imagine being the doctor of a football team? Like, can you imagine? Like, I saw an interview one time. It was a doctor of, I think, like the Seattle Seahawks. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about how, like, we're doctors, but we're fans too. So, like, we want to tell these guys, hey, you can go back out there, but we have to be real with them and say, no, you have to take out, you know, X amount of time.
Yeah.
So, can you imagine being in that position? Like, you have your duty as a human and as a doctor, but you're also like, I really want this guy to play this weekend.
Yeah, like, I feel like that's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things where you have to, like, you've been hired to be a doctor for this team, so you have to put your fanhood aside. Like, I was watching, I think it's the guy who's in charge. He's like the chef in charge of the nutrition for the New England Patriots. I was watching that video, and those guys are really cool too. I've seen several of those videos. The guy in charge of all the food and all the nutrition and stuff like that. So
it just goes to show how much production there is and a team, you know. It's not just the coach and the players. There's so many people that contribute, from the equipment guys to the doctors to the nutritionists to the people that work the transportation. I mean, there's a million things that go on. So
yeah. So,
but back to our pick'ems. The bottom of the barrel game last week, I picked Akron, who is now 0-7, and overall 0-3 in their conference, and scored 0 points in the game. So that might be my worst pick of all time, but you know what? They're going to get it done. They're going to put some numbers up at some point this season. They're going to get their win. It's going to happen, man.
Yeah.
Faith.
Yeah, I figured Buffalo would get that one because Akron's real bad.
All right, so we didn't pick on this game, but the Texas versus Kansas game. Were you surprised by that?
Yeah, I was, and I really wanted Kansas to pull it out because, I said, I'm a big fan of Les Miles, and I'm excited about the future of Kansas football. The only way you were rooting for Texas in this game is if you were a Texas fan. Oh,
everybody
100%.
Yeah, everybody else wanted to see a snuff film on TV.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch any of the game, but I saw the highlights and I was like, oh my god, like Puka Williams ran all over UT's defense.
Boy, yes, he did. 190 yards, 2 touchdowns. 65-yard run was his longest. And then, of course, Carter Stanley, the QB, had 4 touchdowns. This is an injured This is an injured Texas defense. Their secondary is very down right now. Their line is missing a few. And they're, after the loss, if you're on this Texas team and you have that loss to OU, the season sort of feels different, And if you look historically, the seasons where they have the win, that first win against OU, they play a lot better.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Texas is always in the past couple of years, they're due an ugly game each year. Last year was Oklahoma State, and this year it was Kansas. They just happened to win it out.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I bring the game up is because Les Miles had a bit of a problem. First of all, you got to give him props for going for 2 whenever the game is, has about a minute and a half left, and to go ahead and take the lead. He doesn't want to play the overtime game, against Texas at home or on the road against Texas. So he goes for 2. So major props to him for being, the bad genius he is. But he had a problem because he felt that the referees gave Texas about 10 extra seconds. And I looked up the clip, and I'm a little bit on the fence about it. Essentially, Texas was on their own 40, and Sam Ehlinger had just ran for a first down. And as you know, first down in college football means the clock stops. However, it starts again as soon as they have the yardage markers set.
As soon as they've reset the chains, yeah.
As soon as they reset the chains. And so they reset the chains, and then the article he's claiming about 10 seconds passed. I didn't see 10 seconds, but I did see about 5 or 6 seconds before he finally snapped the ball. Basically, they started the clock when he snapped the ball, as opposed to whenever the yard markers and the chains were actually set. Mm-hmm. And there was only about 8 seconds left whenever the ball was kicked. So that being said, was there something going on there? Probably not, but it's fun to stir up.
But a lot of those things that come up like that, like there'll be an article or 2 about it, but then you never hear about it again because it was really a non-issue because the game's over with. News. Yeah, there's got to be news.
Yeah, but even with that loss, you got to feel good if you're a Kansas fan.
Oh, for 100%. Like they're 2-5. I think it's 2-5 right now, and but the future of Kansas football is very exciting because they've got a coach now.
Yes.
And speaking of Kansas football, I want to, this is something I kind of want to talk about, or just like something I want to bring up to tell you about. There's a video put out. There's a content creator that on YouTube called KTO. I don't know if you watch him, but I know.
Yeah. He put up a new video today.
Yeah. He talked about the 2007 college football season, which is widely regarded as the greatest college football season ever. And I agree with that. That's the season that made me fall in love with college football. And that was the last time Kansas was really good because at one point they were like number 2 or number 3 in the country, and they were undefeated. And then they played against Mizzou, who who had one loss, but they were also number 2 or number 3 at the time. And Mizzou ended up winning. But yeah, it was a really good video. So I'm gonna link that in the description because
please do. Watched it yet, but I did save it to my list to watch later.
Because KTO makes really good content. So
watched that dude. Never met him or anything, but I'm sure he's a swell guy.
Yeah, he makes his content's really cool. Stuff. So but
it just goes to show you, man, how quickly, or not quickly necessarily, but just how much of a difference 10 years can make in the landscape of college football.
Yeah, well, 12 years at this point.
12, right.
Yeah, so and just like how different things are. So, but yeah, let's get to
some pick'ems.
Yeah, let's get to some games, man.
Let's open with a time machine game.
Yeah, number 16 SMU at Houston, which is the day we are recording this on Wednesday. So this game is on Thursday night, I believe the 24th. Thursday night the 24th.
This will go up Friday morning the 25th, which is why we refer to it as the time machine game.
So you are going to know, you're going to know the result of this game before recorded us, but uploaded us will know the result of this game. And by
listening to this, you are going back in the past to experience the prediction with us.
Yes, for sure. And there's a chance that I may attend this game because it is at the University of Houston, and I live not far from the University of Houston, and the tickets are going to be very cheap. So
it's going to be a fun one to go to, man. I think you should, if you can go, this would be a really fun one.
I would really like to go to this one because I want to see this SMU offense. And obviously, I've talked about I'm a bit of a Houston fan, but I would definitely be cheering for SMU in this game because I want them to continue their undefeated ways.
Oh, do you now? Because you have little faith last week. We're so ready. You picked Temple last week to take down SMU.
I did. I wanted SMU to win, and they did, but I predicted that Temple would beat them because you look at in the history of like teams from like a not Power 5 conference that go undefeated. Like, yes, UCF did it, and then they lost in their bowl. They went undefeated, and they won their bowl game against Auburn. And then they went undefeated in the regular season, and they lost to LSU in the bowl game. But, like, if you look at the history of undefeated, like, lower conference teams, there's been several teams in, the past, they go undefeated, and then they, lose in their conference championship. Or they'll go undefeated all season, and they'll lose at, one of the – I know, I think it was, 7 or 8 years ago, Marshall was undefeated, and they lost in their conference championship. And then
it's hard to do because the stakes are on the line. Now we have an undefeated season to protect.
Yeah, for sure. But I SMU's made me a fan this year, and I love watching their Instagram posts after they win a game. That little cheer they do, that little it's a cheer or like a song. But it's really cool to see. So if I get the opportunity, I would definitely like to go to this game and see this SMU team because I want them to continue their undefeated ways. I want them to break. They won't get put in the playoff, but there's obviously going to be that argument that they should. And I'm glad
brother.
I'm glad they've kind of taken up the mantle of that undefeated team from the American from UCF because
they're slowly becoming the UCF of this year.
Yeah, for sure. But it's a really cool story. And there was this past weekend on game day, although I didn't watch it because I was sleeping. I was tired. We were at my mom's.
Dude, me too. Yeah,
we were at my mom's, and we had just got back from vacation the night before. And I drove for 16 hours. Not 16 hours. That's a lie. I drove for 9 hours, and I was just ready to be at home, and I just wanted to sleep. So,
yeah, I also slept through it because we went and stayed at my mother-in-law's house and watched movies until late. Mm-hmm. And, so.
But
it is.
They did a really cool video about, the whole death penalty thing. and then they come back, and now they're back ranked again, and they're undefeated. So it's a really cool story.
Yeah,
and I would
for sure
definitely attempt to attend that game if I can.
You picking this one, brother?
Oh, SMU. Houston's struggling. Where Houston's on a backup quarterback. SMU big by 2 or 3 touchdowns.
It would not surprise me if Houston pulls this out, especially if the Astros are playing well. And the reason I say that is because they're at home. The crowd is going to be very pumped.
Yeah.
Especially since this is a team that this is a win that if Houston gets, suddenly they have like a big win this year. I think Houston has, although SMU is trying to maintain a undefeated season, Houston has a lot more has just as much to play for here because of what they can do against this number 16 SMU team. So I am taking SMU, to be clear, but watch out. This could be a slippery game for SMU. I think Houston has a legitimate chance to win here.
Yeah. And like you look a few years ago when Louisville was doing really good and their only loss was to like Clemson, which they should have won that game, but we could talk about that all day. Anyway, they go into Houston and Houston just clobbers them. So like, Houston is a good program, and I'm excited about the future of Houston Cougar football. But I think SMU takes this one.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's get into. We're gonna start with this College Game Day this week. They're going to an FCS game this season, and they usually go to about one a season. Sometimes they'll go to an FCS game or some game you wouldn't expect them to, but they're
really nice.
Yeah, it's really cool. And if you're a fan of college football, you should follow the FCS because there's really good stuff that happens in the FCS. So they're going to be in Brookings, South Dakota, for 7-0 North Dakota State at 6-1 South Dakota State. So we got the Bison versus the Jackrabbits. So who you got in this one, Daryl?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I know very little about either team. North Dakota State. 2 things. Number one, they're undefeated, so they are obviously trying to maintain a great year. I think they're going to come out ready to go. It's on the road. That's going to be tough. This is a pretty big rivalry, though, isn't it?
Yeah, this is a big rivalry between them. And something about North Dakota. A few things about North Dakota State. They're probably They are the Alabama of FCS football.
Really?
They really are. Let me give you a few stats about North Dakota State real quick.
Please do. I want to hear this.
Just a few stories. Obviously, Carson Wentz, who is currently the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, he played for North Dakota State, and he was their first ever draft pick. And he's been doing very well in the NFL. So, yeah, I think North Dakota State has won 25 straight. And I believe, let me find the stat. I'm gonna go search for it real quick. But North Dakota State has been on this very good run here recently. And let me find the exact number.
Their defense is the real deal. They shut out a team last week, and then they had kept the last team before that to 14 points. They held the last team before that to 3 points, then 16 and 22. They're the real deal.
Yeah. Just a few stats about them. Since 2011, they have a record of 112-8.
Oh my God!
Yeah, which at a point included a 22-game playoff win streak. And they let me find their.
If I don't see a "We Want Bama" sign from an NDSU's fan at game day, I'm going to be very disappointed.
They have won 7. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They have won 7 of the last 8 FCS national championships, starting in 2011.
that only solidifies my pick. I was going to say I have to go with North Dakota State because an old boss of mine, who's a good friend, she graduated from North Dakota State University, and that was the first I had ever heard of it. And so I think I have to go with North Dakota State. Yeah. But I mean, to me, it sounds like that's a pretty solid pick.
That's they get upset, every now and then. And currently, South Dakota State's only loss right now is to undefeated Minnesota, and they only lost by a touchdown. So South Dakota State is also a very good team. But yeah, I'm picking the Bison in this one, and yes, it's pronounced Bison. I know if you look it up, it's going to say bison like a buffalo, but any North Dakota State fan will tell you that it's the Bison.
Do you think South Dakota State fans call it bison to annoy North Dakota State fans?
100%. They 100% do. Like I said, I don't really know much about this rivalry, but Bison and Jackrabbits are two great mascot names. But I'm picking the Bison in this one.
We need to step it up. How many damn Tigers do we have in the top 25?
The SEC has 3: Auburn, Mizzou, and LSU. Yeah, there needs to be more creative. Like, obviously, Ohio State's a good one. The Buckeye, that's a nut. And
you need to call Coach O and see if he'd be willing to change it to the LSU Jackrabbits.
That'd be hilarious. I don't think that's going to happen.
Their mascot would be much cheaper to handle.
Probably.
Mike the Jackrabbit.
Yeah, but LSU is actually if you're unaware of this, LSU is actually they're considered a tiger sanctuary, so they're allowed to have Mike there, and Mike doesn't leave his enclosure. And I've been there, and Mike is beautiful. I got to see the previous Mike before he passed away, and I haven't seen this new Mike yet in person, but
thank you for that, Professor Spencer. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they are labeled as a sanctuary, which is why they get to keep the tiger there. So that's why they get to keep Mike on campus.
My man,
what's up?
Picking?
Oh, between the Bison and the Jackrabbits?
Yeah, who are you going with? I'm picking the Bison.
The Bison, 100%.
Right, and actually, now that we're saying this, it just occurred to me that I'm not writing these down. So let me go ahead and write them down.
Which, in hindsight, we should have been doing from the outset, but
okay, we've only covered this one, and then there was one more that we said, right? Or was it just this one?
No, what I'm saying,
there's also SMU Houston.
Yeah, we should have been writing down who we picked since
from the get-go,
since we started this show. But
we'll nail it next year.
You live and you learn. Yeah.
All right, so we both picked SMU for Houston, and
yeah,
you could even cut this part out if you wanted to.
Yeah, and we're both going with NDSU for
that's
the Bison over the Jackrabbits. Yeah,
if Nakey Jakey's going to that game,
that would be great because he is from South Dakota. I think he lives in LA now, though.
But yeah, just like all the big time YouTubers.
Yeah, that dude's so talented, though. He's a big time YouTuber, but he's different. I don't put him in the same bubble as other YouTubers. That dude's great.
He's morphing into a musician. Yeah, I think that's what he really wants to do.
Mm-hmm. But
anyways, this next time on the Nakey Jakey podcast,
just know that South Dakota's going to be on repeat all day Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm gonna link that. If you don't know who Nakey Jakey is, I'm gonna link his song "South Dakota" in the description because it's really good.
Just do, because not only is it a banger, but as bangers go, it is like top tier.
Yeah, it has silly lyrics, but it has a great beat, and Jakey's really talented. So,
oh man, the Badgers visiting the Buckeyes. Who you got?
The Buckeyes, big.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anything fancy here, especially after Wisconsin. Unless they bounce back, I don't see much happening here.
Yeah, every time Wisconsin's good and they play Ohio State gets them. Wisconsin hasn't just they're coming off this upset to Illinois, and they had one of the best defenses in the country, and then they just gave up 24 points to Illinois, and they're supposed to contain an Ohio State offense where Justin Fields is playing out of his mind. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm taking the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes by big.
I will, yeah, and I don't. I think Ohio State wins. I think they do win it big, but I do think that there is a solid chance for the Badgers. The reason I think Illinois was such a challenge last week is that number one, this was the homecoming game. Number two, Illinois had those wonderful sensual uniforms that I mentioned last week on the show. Hint, go check that out.
They were great.
Yeah, that was the Gray Ghost, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice uniforms, but they showed up to play. It was the homecoming game. Maybe a bit of a trap game for Wisconsin. So I don't know. Wisconsin may not get rolled over here. They may be the Wisconsin from the weeks before that. But we'll see. I think this will be a fun game, but I expect Ohio State to really break it out in the second half.
Yeah, I think the first half may be, Wisconsin will hang around, but then Ohio State will pull off in the second half. Yeah, I just think it's Ohio State's too much. They're really good this year. They got a really good defense, and Justin Fields is playing really good. Justin Fields and J.K. Dobbins are playing great. But yeah, give me Ohio State big in this one.
I agree with you. You give Oklahoma any chance to? Excuse me. You give K-State any chance to take down Oklahoma?
Nah.
No, me neither.
Neither do it. Yeah, Oklahoma's too good. Well, they are in Manhattan. 11 a.m. kickoff.
I mean, it's a trap game in every sense of the
Yeah.
Especially since K-State only has 2 losses. But yeah, I think that this could, as long as Oklahoma does not overlook K-State and takes care of their business, which Lincoln Riley always does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it'll be a problem. Oklahoma should win pretty handily.
Yeah.
It'd be a game, senor.
Yeah. It's. I think Oklahoma's got 2 real tests coming up after Kansas State. They get Iowa State at home, and then they go to Waco. So,
yes, sir. Oh, they're going to Waco. That's right.
They're going to Waco. So if Baylor can continue their winning ways, game day might show up for that one.
My stepdad, he will be glued to the TV. He's a huge Baylor fan.
He will be over the moon for that one.
Absolutely.
Isn't he also an Arkansas fan?
It is, yeah. And I always give him a hard time because they can't beat A&M to save their life.
Yeah. They always play A&M tough, but as we've said, A&M doesn't lose in AT&T Stadium.
Oh,
they just don't.
I wish that was the home field.
Yeah.
They win there more than the Cowboys do.
Look, we won this past weekend, all right?
We somehow.
Yeah, somehow. Which, brief aside, we're going to talk about NFL football for a second. Seeing
it's a cardinal sin. We can't do that on this show.
Look, seeing the way the Cowboys played against the Eagles, we beat them, and then seeing the way the Jets played against the Patriots, we should be even more embarrassed that we lost to the Jets. New York Jets.
All I'm going to say is that Sam Darnold came to play, and Jason Garrett can't motivate a team. It took the I forget his name, the Eagles head coach. It took him motivating the Cowboys. He had to get them fired up by guaranteeing a win whenever they walked into Dallas. And of course, they showed up and they wanted to play. I don't know. Jason Garrett's the problem, though.
Lincoln Riley, please come to the talk. Yeah, Lincoln Riley, please come to the Cowboys ASAP.
Exactly.
Anyway, let's get back into the things that really matter. College football. Daryl,
feed me a game.
Tell me about the game I'm about to tell you about. Tell me about number 21 Appalachian State at South Alabama.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything fancy here. South Alabama is 1-6, 0-3 in conference play. I think that the real question is, will Appalachian State still have their starters in the second half?
Yeah, South Alabama's real bad, and Appalachian State's real good. So give me the Mountaineers in this one.
Yep. Sneaky game here. Vegas knows what's up. Texas at TCU.
Oh. Look, I said because of these uniforms TCU's wearing.
You're getting ahead of yourself. We're saving that segment for the end.
We are. But yeah, Vegas knows what's up. Texas just gave up 48.
Texas
just gave up 48 points to Kansas.
And the line is Texas as a 2-point favorite. They're not even giving them a full field goal. They're saying that they're putting Cameron Baker on the spot and saying it's going to be that close.
Yeah. TCU's 3-3. They're struggling a bit this year. They haven't. I don't know if they've really had that great of a team since Kenny Hill left.
I mean, outside of their loss to Iowa State, everything they've had has been close. They lost by a field goal to SMU, a great SMU team, as we've already established. Yeah. They lost by a field goal, again, at K-State.
They lost by a touchdown to K-State.
I apologize. A touchdown. They've struggled on the road this year, with the exception of SMU, who, again, as we've established, is good. At home, this could be a big trap game for Texas. Yeah. I don't know. I'm very split on this one. How do you feel?
Give me the Horned Frogs. Like, bunch of points in this one. Probably over 100 combined points, same as it was last week. But yeah, give me the Horned Frogs by like a field goal, or less than a touchdown. Touchdown or less. Give me the Horned Frogs.
All right, I'll write you down for that. This is a game that can go either way. I think this is a game that Longhorn fans are very stressed out about. This is a game where TCU has a chance to get a win against a in-conference rival. I mean, all the stars align for Texas to somehow lose this. I think that they pull it out just because you have a good week of practice. I'm so torn about this because look, if you have a close win, right, and you have a close win against an Oklahoma, or you have a close win against a West Virginia or an Oklahoma State, any team that is fair or better, it's encouraging because it says, okay, we overcame adversity. When you have a close loss against a team like Kansas, it's hard to rationalize that, right? It's like also we got a close win, but it was against Kansas. Like are we
also a Kansas team that TCU beat 51-14.
Yeah, point in case. Yeah, I mean, a lot of things point to Texas losing this game. I think somehow they win it. I think Tom Herman's a good coach. I think that despite the injuries, you get a lot of reps in that last game. I think Texas is going to win this one, but it's going to be very close. And I think they go undefeated into Waco. Not undefeated, excuse me. They win until they get to Waco, and then Baylor has their chance to make something big happen. So I'm taking Texas in a close one, but TCU's a damn good pick.
Yeah. Give me the Horned Frogs just because I think they win this game. And yeah, give me the Horned Frogs. Also, I've said before when I was in high school I wanted to go to TCU a lot. So my TCU always have a soft spot for me.
Of course.
But yeah, give me the Horned Frogs.
Arkansas going into Alabama. We don't need to talk about that. That's just going to be a barbecue. We got Boston College going into Clemson.
Clemson.
Nothing fancy there, yeah.
Yeah, nothing. Nobody's on upset alert this week, except for, although, that game wouldn't really be an upset if we can go ahead. What game do you refer? Number 9 Auburn at number 2 my number 2 LSU Tigers.
So if Auburn won, that would not be an upset to you?
No, because it's top 10. It would be a bit of an upset because of the season LSU's having. And the season that Auburn's having, but like
the headline would not be Auburn shocks LSU. It would be something like Auburn edges LSU or something.
Yeah, it would be Auburn steals one or something like. Yeah, it's not.
It's gonna be a game that if they win, it's not a shocking thing.
Yeah, so let's get into this one. Like I said, LSU, we're having a great season, and like we talked about at the beginning. We have 2 top 10 wins, which is the most in the country. We played against, at the time, was a very quality team in Texas, number 9 at the time. And 2 weeks ago, we came off a very quality opponent in Florida. This past weekend against Mississippi State was the only time we haven't scored above 40 points in a game. But it's because Mississippi State's played really good pass defense. Like, we probably should have had 3 more touchdowns than we really had. But, Joe Burrow still threw for 4 touchdowns. And he is now past the LSU record mark for passing touchdowns in a season, and we're only on game 7. So, that was only the 7th game that LSU's played. So going into this week against Auburn, history tells you that LSU should win this game because Auburn hasn't won in Death Valley since 1999. So it's been 20 years since Auburn's won at LSU.
Right.
Bo Nix he's up and down.
He's going through growing pains right now, and
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a force to be reckoned with next year. But he certainly is. This is his learning year, big time.
Yeah, and I just think with LSU's defense, the way our defense has been playing, the way our offense has been playing, is that Auburn's going to have to play a game to keep up, and because it's going to be in Death Valley, it's not a night game; it's a 2:30 kickoff. But because it's going to be in Death Valley, give me my Tigers by 3 touchdowns. Because
3 touchdowns.
Yeah, our offense is too much, and yes, Auburn has a great defense, but LSU also has a great defense. So I think we'll be able to shut down their offense, and we get Terrence Marshall back this week. So we have our wide receiver trio going really good, and so give me my Tigers big over the Auburn Tigers.
Some causes for concern here for if you're an LSU fan. Points per game allowed, LSU's averaging about 20, Auburn's averaging about 17. I think Auburn's defense is a little bit better than LSU's. Mm-hmm. But that being said, LSU's offense is obviously fireworks. They're putting up an average of 50 points a game. Yeah. Auburn's 36. An average of 539 yards per game to Auburn's 433. LSU has passed the Florida litmus test that Auburn did not pass. Although, to be fair, they did have to go into
the swamp.
The swamp.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is a game with a very similar resumes for both teams, minus 1 or 2 things. That you can clearly see your differences. I do think LSU wins this thing, but I think it's going to look very similar to the Florida game. It's going to be a hotly contested game. I think Auburn's going to come to play. Bo Nix has been good and bad on the road. He was really bad on the road against Florida, but he's been great on the road against Arkansas and against A&M.
I mean, being great against Arkansas isn't saying much, but I feel you.
Oh, I just mean the road environment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that LSU probably wins this, but I do think it's maybe by 10. I would go with LSU by 10.
Okay, so we're in agreement on this one.
And not many disagreements this week. We were pretty across the board. I almost picked Auburn just to contend you. I can't readily do that. And myself in the mirror as an honest man, as an honest American.
Yeah.
I know what's coming.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a very good game. But yeah, tell me.
I'm gonna put you as 3 touchdowns. I'm gonna put me as 10. So we'll see who was closer on who actually how they won. How close it is.
Yeah. So tell me about number 6 Penn State going to Michigan State. Michigan State struggling a little bit this year.
Michigan State's been they've been underwhelming. I think this could be a close game down the stretch, I think, but I do think that Penn State is just too much. I think you're going to see signs of life from Michigan throughout the game, where you think, hey, if they can just get a touchdown here, they'll be in a good spot. Okay, they settle for a field goal. Penn State scores. Michigan State has a chance to get a score. There's going to be signs of life for Michigan State the entire game, but I think Penn State wins it. I think they outpace them. I got Penn State by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. I think Penn State gets it done too. Penn State's really good this year. Although there's 3 undefeated teams in the Big Ten right now. So, and they all have to. I think they all have to play each other, if I'm not mistaken. Because I know Penn State.
It'll be a fun year.
I know Penn State.
A little down the stretch for the Big Ten.
I know Penn State and Minnesota play each other. Oh, Minnesota doesn't have to play Ohio State. They wouldn't have to play Ohio State until they got to the Big Ten championship. Okay. But yeah. Anyway, that's down the line. That's future.
Irish going in to talk to the Wolverines. How you feel about that?
Classic rivalry, which should be played every year, which they stopped doing. Obviously, a bunch of classic games. We all remember back in the day, the first ever night game at the Big House when Denard Robinson, with Notre Dame and Michigan, and Denard Robinson, came up with that crazy comeback at the end. But I don't think this is the year where Michigan pulls off anything miraculous against Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's a much better team than Michigan is. So I'm going to take the Irish over the Wolverines.
Michigan let me down last week. But that being said, I think this is a rebound game for them. Notre Dame is good, don't get me wrong, but and we've always sort of preached that Notre Dame is overrated, and Notre Dame gets slapped with the overrated label a lot. I think they proved a lot of people wrong in that Georgia game that they made so close. However, after Georgia struggled against Kentucky last week, 0-0 at the half, and obviously figured things out. And I think also the Georgia game against South Carolina, where they lost, kind of sobered a lot of people's opinions on Georgia, maybe sober some opinions on Notre Dame. I actually like Michigan here. I think that they're going to rebound. I think they're going to take down a Notre Dame team that maybe should not be number 8. Close game here.
Yeah. The 3. Sorry about that. After a boring, lengthy absence, thank you, Emmett, my dog. He stepped on my microphone cord and unplugged it. So
okay, you're trying to sabotage the show.
Yeah, but we're back.
Start his own YouTube channel and compete with us.
Yeah, we don't have that much more to really talk about, but
need to cover the bottom of the barrel game for this week.
We do. What game
is this game this week is between the 1-6 UConn Huskies and the 1-6 UMass Minutemen. UConn versus UMass. Who you got?
UConn, because we've talked about them a couple times, and I really like their logo.
I'm going to go with UMass, really just to disagree with you. Both of them are coming off of 2-game losing streaks, so really, if the team can just show up and put some points up, I think it'd be a pretty big win for them.
I mean, UConn's on a 6-game losing streak, but,
Oh, right, but hey, I was trying to be as equal as possible.
Yeah, yeah. I think UMass is an independent. I don't think they're even in a conference.
I think you're right, yeah.
So
UConn's actually favored to win this game, believe it or not.
I believe it, but
they are on a 6-game losing streak. But yeah, I don't know. I got UMass. I think they're going to pull it out.
Does favored really mean anything when both teams are 1-6?
Absolutely.
What is favored? What is favored really, Daryl?
Like least unfavored.
The opposite of favored.
Exactly. Whoever's unfavored the least.
Yeah, give me the
double negatives.
Give me the Huskies.
Take the Minutemen.
Yeah.
I play for all 60 minutes, and they're going to take UConn down.
I like that. Anyway, so
really excited about this next part.
Oh my goodness, these uniforms that TCU about to wear this week are immaculate. These are the best ones we've talked about. They look so good. They've got this.
If they do pull out the upset against Texas, they're going to look really good while they're doing it.
Yeah, this purple on the helmet that they're wearing is really good. They need to switch to that. They need to switch to that purple, that shade of purple, all the time.
That shade of purple with that shade of red almost looks as if, and it's appropriate because it's going to be right next to Halloween, but it almost gives off like sort of like spooky Halloween type vibes. Like it has like the Addams Family colors. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It looks really, really good. That shade of purple is really nice.
It is nasty on that matte gray.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware of? There's a lot of red in this uniform. Are you aware of where that red comes from?
Oh, you were going to tell me earlier, then you restrained yourself, so you could tell me now in front of the folks.
Yeah, the red comes from the horned frog, the actual animal. When they are threatened, they shoot blood from their eyes.
That is how a horned frog do.
Yeah, 100%.
That is. That's a nightmare. If I ever saw anything shooting blood at me from its eyes, I would poop on the floor and run the opposite direction.
Yeah, it's.
Continue to poop as I run.
Yeah, TCU has often featured little pieces of red in like alternate uniforms, and that's because that's because of the horned frogs, the actual animal.
What I like about this is a nice touch is, of course, they have the red on their face masks specifically. So I guess it sort of is like the eyes, and then they also have red on the hand portion of the glove, like where the sticky part is.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really nice touch. I like it, man. These are seriously nice.
Yeah. But then we're not done because we're going to talk about these. We're going to talk about these ones that UCF is wearing.
Double or nothing here on the Game Day broadcast.
Yeah,
Breakfast Podcast.
For the anniversary of the moon landing, UCF is wearing some all white uniforms with all kind of like space logos all over them, and they got the USA on the. But these helmets, one side of it was painted like the light side of the moon, and the other one's painted like the dark side of the moon. And it blends in with the face mask is painted the same way. Oh, they look really, really good. These are two of the best alternate uniforms this season so far.
Big time, man.
Yeah, and it's going to take a lot to top these two.
Very nice touch is the side of the pants have USA on them.
Yeah.
And that is because of the side of the space shuttle has USA going down it. So it's the same colors. Very nice touch. You have a lot of constellations in the number on the uniforms, and I think there's a couple as well on the shoulders, but you can really see it clearly in the uniforms. I mean, they really outdid themselves.
Yeah.
And this is one of the beautiful. This is to me, and we talked about college football being such a great thing. To me, this is one of the top two things, and it's not two of college football. Is just that there's so much freedom with the uniforms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
just because you can't obviously you have one, you have the throwback jersey sometimes in the NFL, that's nice, but you have teams in the college football that can really just sort of let loose and have freaking the Little Dipper on their uniform. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I wonder if they have Orion's belt. I couldn't quite find it in their numbers, but
it wouldn't surprise me.
It'd be a huge waste of space if they did it.
Yeah, it had to be like cropped out or something. But yeah, very nice. I like how. What happened?
You missed my joke, but okay.
Ryan, I'm not gonna lie to you, man. I heard what you said, and I was like, he's probably trying to make a Orion's joke belt, and then I thought, no, I'm just being stupid. There's no way he'd be making an Orion's belt joke. I was like, don't acknowledge that. Like, no one has dumb thoughts like me, but I guess you did. You had the exact same thought.
Yeah.
Very clever. Very clever.
But yeah, that those uniforms look really good. It's going to be difficult to top these TCU uniforms, and these UCF uniforms by anybody else going forward. So,
wish they were playing each other this week. That would be.
Oh,
I mean,
that'd be beautiful.
I just watched that game twice.
Yeah, it'd be great. So, but yeah, I think that's about all I got, Daryl.
Yeah, I think that's about all I got too, man.
You want to tell me about something cool outside the world of college football?
First, I need to think of something.
All right. I'm going to tell you about the fact that the Astros are in the World Series right now. I know we talked about them last week or the week before, but they're doing good. They're in the World Series. We're down 1-0. But as soon as we get done recording here, I'm going to put the game on, and hopefully we can catch another game at home. We can win Game 2 at home before we go on the road on Friday to go to D.C. So,
my good news is that we are only 63 days away from Christmas.
Good. Don't skip over Thanksgiving because I think about Thanksgiving food quite a lot, but Christmas is fun.
Well, lucky for you, Thanksgiving is only in 36 days.
Yeah, so I get to be a pig and gorge out on delicious food. So
pig and eat some pig.
Yeah. So, but yeah, man, that's about all I got.
Thank y'all so much for joining us. I apologize so much for all of the random technical that we had, but thanks for sticking with us.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be one heck of a weekend.
It's going to be a very fun weekend. Got college football, got playoff baseball. Well, not even playoff, but the World Series. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one. So
get at us on Facebook, social media, subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments what you want us to talk about next time. If we were wrong or right about stuff, make sure to like the video. Hit the bell if you want to know when our stuff goes up. It's every Friday. Spoiler alert.
Every Friday morning at 7 a.m. So thank you for listening, everybody. That'll do it for us.
Right, y'all.
Bye.